Hello and welcome back to the KCC channel. I'm Rob and I hope you are having a wonderful day today. Today we're jumping into some malicious compliance. Our first story today comes to us from Ancient Educator 76. Charge me the right price. Aw, do I have to? Okay then, let's jump right in. Weirdos the name, fast food's the game. My second job taking orders has me listening to and meeting some interesting people, and in that order. This particular person I listened to sounded pretty cool in general. Then I met him a minute later to confirm, total forktard. Like if a Russian doll of cardboard boxes revealed nothing but a scentless fart, that would be how interested I'd be in whatever this guy has to say. Like if Professor Knitnot was an actual person. Anyway, Knitnot orders a grilled chicken sandwich and a junior chocolate frosty. Some background about our ordering process: if it's not too busy, I will actually be in front of the screen while the person's ordering. But 80% of the time, I'm remembering the order in my head while making drinks, chili, frosties for the previous order, which is why you often hear what I said to him. I'll have your total at the window. I continue taking the next order or two when the person I'm back to back with, the person collecting the money from the orders, says they gotta visit the bathroom, so I'm collecting now too. So I'm now running both sides, making the drinks from previous orders, and when I put in the order for the grilled chicken sandwich and a junior chocolate frosty, I hit the button that says Junior Chocolate Frosty Free with key tag button. So it shows up in the system but takes off the price because they get a free frosty with purchase. I decided that even if this guy didn't have the key tag for a free one, I'd still give it to him for free. Seemed pretty cool. The car I was talking to comes up and hands out a credit card as I say, "Hi, that'll be $6.37. With as much of a smile as I can muster whilst multitasking. The second I say the S sound in 7, the driver snatches the credit card back with enough force to hurt like a fork. If I didn't have such recently calloused hands, I'm positive it would have broken skin. Then they say, "There's no way my order was $6.37. I just had a chicken sandwich and a frosty. You better charge me the right amount." I go back in and double check the order. Yep, a grilled chicken sandwich is $5.89 plus tax. But then my hand is still hurting from where he basically sliced at the inside of my palm with this credit card, which served as a reminder to me that, oh yeah, he had a junior frosty too. I add a junior frosty to the total and delete the free with key tag frosty. I pop out the window like a jack in the box. Someone help me make this joke in the comments to first apologize and inform him of his new total. I made sure I said it like this: "Oh, you're right, I'm sorry. That wasn't the correct price. Wait, do you have a frosty key tag?" "No, I don't." "Okay, it's going to be $7.46 for the grilled chicken sandwich and the junior frosty. I mistakenly thought you had a key tag for a free one. My mistake. You know, because we need to apologize to the customer as a required part of our customer service contract. Blast." If someone could look dumbfounded and angry at the same time, this guy pulled it off. Like a dog when they hear a fart for the first time, the very second they decide to bark at it, kind of like that. The funniest part was, as I was handing out the bag, his card, and his frosty, his wife, sitting in the passenger seat, saying as they drove off, "Way to go, butthole, I could've got a free frosty," emphasizing the word with a smile on her face. Made the guy laugh also, lucky bastard. I have to admit, at some fast food places, I kinda wonder about the pricing when I get up to the window. 2 burgers and 2 fries and 2 drinks comes to $32? What the hell, A&W? Anyway, I think if I'd got to the window and realized that the price was a little bit lower than it should be, I think I'd do the honest thing and let them know. Do me a quick favor and take a look down below the video. If that subscribe button's still red, it means you're actually not subscribed to the KCC channel. Please hit that subscribe button for more daily Reddit stories. This next story comes to us from Present Shame. Cheese. Let's jump right in. When I was in college, I worked at a burger joint that most West Coasters know and love. The menu was pretty straightforward, and all the combos were only there for convenience, as the prices were the same if you ordered each item individually. As such, there were only 3 combos. Number 1, double combo. Number 2, cheeseburger combo. And number 3, hamburger combo. For reasons I will never understand, people would order a number 2 with no cheese or a number 3 with cheese more often than one would imagine. In most of these instances, I found it easier to just ring up the order as it should be, but read it back to them in the way they ordered it. Example, if they ordered a number 2 with no cheese, I would just enter in a number 3, but read it back as a number 2 with no cheese. The price for the slice of cheese at the time, I think, was only 60 cents. But everything needed to be entered into the system correctly, since each meat patty and slice of cheese was counted at the end of and before each day, to make sure sales were being properly tracked. Enter some snobby kid, maybe 15 or 16, and the waste of space that must have been his dad. Dad puts his order in and steps back to let his kid order. Kid is texting while I'm taking his order, which already annoyed me, but the tone in which he spoke just made me want to punch him in the throat. He orders a number 2 with no cheese. Given how this interaction already started out so wonderful, I decided to give a little pushback because why not? Oh, you mean a number 3? No, I just want the number 2, but I don't want cheese on it. That's a number 3. I said number 2, no cheese. Dad says, maybe stop arguing with customers and just ring it up. He didn't yell, but again, his tone of voice was just so darn disrespectful and annoying. During this conversation, the dad is just standing behind him with a crap-eating grin on his face, like he is so proud his kid turned out to be such a dick. So I ring it up as a number 2, read their order back to them, and send them on their way. I walked back to the grill where the order ticket prints out and wrote no cheese on it and told the cook the same thing. Since everything is tracked, a piece of cheese was entered into the system for that number 2, and they already paid for it. I went into the walk-in and ate a slice of cheese so as to not throw off the inventory. Best darn piece of cheese I ever had. Ah yes, let me argue with the person who knows what they're doing and end up paying more for it in the end too. Oh my gosh, that's amazing. But this really wasn't a case of malicious compliance. This was more like a case of delicious compliance. Right, Opie? This next story comes to us from J-Man U Waterloo. I do not need you staying here with me answering phone calls or processing customers for the rest of the shift. Let's jump right in. Context. I used to work at a major supermarket in the online grocery department. This happened when I was about 7 months in this position, and about this time, the Delta variant of COVID had arrived, which meant that everyone in the community was scared of getting COVID and didn't want to actually walk into the grocery store to shop. Thus, all of these folks placed online orders for either pickup or delivery. Due to this exceptional demand, our bosses decided to have 20 order slots available to customers per hour for pickup. I worked in the pickup team, and the delivery team was outsourced to a third-party company. Anyways, we have a couple of new colleagues join us, and one of them in particular is of a very young age, 3-ish years younger, who also happens to be a micromanager and essentially a pain in the butt to work with. We'll call him Andy. Andy loves to go on his phone all the time. Mind you, I'm only in post-secondary now, and this happened in early 2021. In our team, we have a couple of roles which are assigned to staff on a daily basis. Sometimes the roles change, but generally they stay the same. Per our specific store policy, there are supposed to be 2 persons in the home area of the team at all times, answering customer calls and gathering all the necessary bins for a person's order. Note that role is given to generally more tenured persons unless they request otherwise, and requires additional training from the department manager. One person is responsible for taking out the groceries to the customer's vehicle, and the rest of the staff are usually assigned to collect the individual items off the store shelves per a customer's order. Story. One day I come into work and I'm working a full shift, 8 hours. It happens that I'm working with newer staff only, and Andy is also working. There's no role assignment sheet out on that day, so no specific roles were assigned. I decide, since I'm the more tenured and have had the necessary training, that I would stay in the home area of the team. Andy comes up to me and says that the manager had assigned him to stay for his shift, and he requested for me to help collect items off the shelves for the rest of my shift. Note here, it's difficult to be using your phone while collecting customer items, so ideally you want to stay in home base to use your phone. You haven't had training from manager yet, and I am more tenured. No, I have the training, Please go and collect items. I do not need you staying here with me answering phone calls or processing customers for the rest of the shift. Are you sure? All of the order slots are full for the rest of the shift. Yes, it's fine. Please go and collect items. Okay. Malicious compliance. So I go and start collecting items for future customers' orders and return to base after a run, hour 1, to drop off the containers with items and grab new containers. You can only take so many containers in a cart at once. Andy seems to be managing fine, so I don't disturb him and go out for a second run. I come back, hour 2, and Andy asks me to take over his customer phone call. At this point, the customer is arguing over something trivial, but I tell him, "You told me you don't need me to stay here for the entire shift, so I'm going for another run." Andy hesitantly agrees, and I continue with my third run. I come back, hour 3, and there's a queue of about 7 post-it notes with customer orders on it, and Andy is on the phone with the customer. Anticipated customer wait time of 35 minutes? Yikes. Post-it notes were used when we didn't have time to print off proper order summaries. Additionally, the policy for waiting times is a maximum of 5 minutes from the time they call. He sees me and asks me to help him process orders as well as obtaining the required container so the staff responsible for taking orders out could do so in a timely manner. Once again, I tell him, "You told me not to stay here and do any of the home base's tasks. I'm going for another run." I come back, hour 4, and there is a long line of 23 post-it notes with customer orders on them. Anticipated customer wait time of 2 hours. Big yikes. And this time, he pulls on my arm as soon as I come in and asks me to help him answer phone calls and process orders. But once again, I refused, referencing what he told me. He let out a massive sigh and called the manager's extension. At this point, I went out to do another run. Halfway, hour 4.5 through my run, I'm interrupted by the manager on duty. Our team's manager had gone home for the evening. He asks me to come with him to help him and Andy in our area to clean up the backlog, as at this point customers were waiting well over 3.5 hours. Major problem. I walk back into the home base and the manager questions me of why I wasn't staying in the home base, taking care of phone calls and customer orders. I tell him the full truth. Specifically that Andy had strictly noted that our team manager assigned him and only him to be in the home base managing these tasks, and Andy had sent me out to collect customer items for the rest of the shift in its entirety. Andy rebutted with the fact that he did not say this and that he asked me to help him multiple times and I had blatantly refused. I told both the manager and Andy that I'll be helping to clear the backlog and then going back to doing runs, and at this point I empathize with our customers waiting for 3.5 hours. At the end of my shift, we finally managed to catch up a decent amount, and I did end up staying about 30 minutes overtime to reschedule the customers scheduled for later in the day to the next day's morning slots, double booking the next day's slots. Well, Andy went home already. As a courtesy, I gave each customer that had to be rescheduled a $20 voucher. There were 44 total rescheduled customers. Just as I clocked out, I bump into the manager and he tells and rants to me what a crap show today was. I tell him, "You may want to look at the CCTV of our home base. Have a good rest of your night." Fallout. It so happened that I was taking 2 weeks of leave that day, and after the leave, when I went back, I noticed every shift that Andy was doing runs and never staying in the home base. Turns out, the manager on duty looked at the CCTV that very same night and heard very clearly what Andy had told me. Conferring with our team manager, they canceled his administrator permissions on the order processing computer, which he had begged our team manager for over 2 weeks, as well as giving him a written warning. However, that didn't seem enough, since while I was away, Andy decided to do the same thing to another staff member, and ended up getting a second and essentially final written warning. Plus, he made it on the frequent monitoring list of every manager. At 3 written warnings, your employment is immediately terminated. The days and shifts that followed after were very pleasant, and there was not a single peep from Andy when he came into work. He directly started collecting customer items without asking. Now, OP added on a little bit of an edit to this one that gives you a little bit of extra information to follow up the story. It says, "Update after I called my friend who still works there. 1. Andy still works there, still has his admin privileges revoked, and is solely collecting the customer items, printed with the assignment sheet, not anticipated to change. Generally, role assignments are written in on the day of. 2. Former team manager was laid off as of January 2022 for mistreating the department, including scheduling staff outside of their availability slots, as well as multiple incidences of not following policy. 3. Our team's voucher budget increased 50% for this calendar year because of worse incidents that happened after I left the company. OP says they gave out about $1,480 worth of vouchers that day. That's enough money to make somebody think twice about who's running that department and what exactly is going on there. What really makes me wonder though is that they tripled the amount that they were allotted to give out, so I guess they were thinking that there was going to be a lot more problems in that area. Time for some new management, that is for sure. This next story comes to us from El Ragu. No, I am the master of baiting. Let's jump right in. Hey guys, enough time has passed that I think I can safely post this story here. It's a tale of revenge, a petty grudge, and giving the doctor exactly what he requested from Mr. Tato's IT department, who is me. Okay, so a while ago the resident doctor at Mr. Tato's Tato plant resigned to go for greener pastures, which is a shame because he was the nicest guy. A couple of weeks later, Mr. Tato's medical wing sent us a replacement doctor, and I almost instantly didn't like the guy, who we will call Dr. Mikos. I like to think I have a pretty sharp intuition, but I don't really let it drive my behavior in front of people I just met. But holy crap, did he ever work to deserve it? During the course of his first couple of months at the plant, Dr. Mikos lost the documentation for my contractors several times, then denied them entry because they had no documentation. This caused several vital repairs to our network infrastructure to go behind schedule, and Francis, the plant director, to get on my butt about it. Was especially demanding of my time, most of the time for petty things I can't control or address. Didn't even get a ticket or anything. He would just call me over to look at his computer, demanding I fix it. Not his work computer, his personal computer. Also, somehow made enemies of most of the departments. This will come into play later. Then the incident. Due to electrical equipment failure, for quite some time all the networking infrastructure had to be powered with a diesel engine. I don't really want to go into the specifics cause it will fill this story with clutter, but either gas goes in or the plant stops, and Mr. Tato loses a buttload of money. So my contractors came in to fill the critically empty engine. At this time, we were about an hour away from a dry engine and doom. Francis, the plant director, personally approves and escalates the entrance of my people as an emergency. Then, Dr. Mikos stops the whole thing, citing a health risk. My people can't work, and the power plot will stop. Eventually, me, Francis, and the maintenance department got around it by asking maintenance to pump the gas themselves. But this move earned him the ire of Francis, and got the doc into my crap list. But that wasn't the thing that earned him my grudge. One day, Priscilla asks for my help. She's the head of her own department, a very nice older lady who knows not a darn thing about computers and is constantly asking me for help. Because she warrants about half of my support tickets a year, you can say she's my primary source of income. Well, I'm working on her email cause it won't load. Then, Dr. Mikos comes in asking for whatever. And let me tell you, he was not just rude, he was dismissive, called her worthless. When I ask her about it after the guy left, she tells me he's like this every time. This is the moment that gave me casus belli. I started collecting information, discovered some very interesting tidbits, and waited for my time. This will come into play later. One day, Dr. Mikos calls me into his office. He demands that I give him access to the open net because at the moment he can't browse freely. This was my time. Well, I can't really do that. You have to create a support ticket and a request. This could take a week or a month. Technically true, it took a couple of days most of the time. It will also have a cost for your area. This was also true. It would cost about $1 a month. He stood there for a couple of seconds thinking, but you have internet access on your desk, you can browse anything, right? Give me access. And there it was. I can do that, but you have to keep it confidential, cause it's outside the corporate network, there's no surveillance. Do it. And I did. Usually, in a corporate setting, employees have access to the heavily monitored and restricted corporate network. Mr. Tato's network has a team of people that block all the fun stuff and watch your every move. The network he asked me to route to his office is basically what you would find in a home. I mostly use it for things that need access to an outside network, and it only has my eyes on it. Yes, this was a trap. The moment I finished routing the cable to the doc's office, I set up a small backup laptop with surveillance software and started the capture. Called the doctor, told him his private internet is installed, and I reiterated how he should consider this an olive branch and he should tell nobody about it. Now, a couple of very interesting tidbits of information. Surveillance software is so cool. Basically, it sees and logs traffic on your network. You see what every computer or device is doing on your network, what sites you are browsing, and at what times. During the course of my investigation, I learned that Dr. Mikos was a serious creep. He earned infamy with his female staff with lewd and uncomfortable comments. Several female workers also complained, but due to the way HR works, Pete, the head of HR, couldn't do anything about it without hard evidence. But I knew what the capture would find, and the doc delivered fast. After a whole day of data capture, I showed the logs to Pete, and I was honestly almost impressed. Several different adult sites at 10 a.m., traffic to this various sites for about an hour. We asked the staff at the medical office, and at this time, he was shut into his office. Another visit, different site this time, at 1 p.m. lunchtime. Guess he was having a cheeseburger. And a third one at 5 p.m., 1 hour away from closing time. Dude watched adult material at work on his computer 3 times in one day. It was kinda hard to explain to Pete how data capture works, but that was it, hard evidence. I apologized to Pete for giving him extra work, but he dismissed it, said he was happy to have cause, called the head of medical nationwide immediately. Dr. Mikos was escorted out by security the next day, and I showered his work laptop in alcohol before starting work on it the next day, and my days improved. Also, the title of the story probably makes sense now. I really want to know, who thinks that they're not going to be tracked at all when they specifically ask for untracked access to the external internet? What? Also, if this guy was doing this 3 times in a day at work, could you imagine what his house looks like? Frosted donuts come to mind for some reason, and I'll just leave you with that image in your head. You're welcome. Check out all 4 OPs linked in the description down below. I thank you for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day, and we'll see you tomorrow.